In political systems all over the world, based on the principle of separation of powers as propounded by Baron de Montesquieu, government distributes its functions or authority into different levels, that is, the arms of government. This is to avoid what we call over-concentration of powers in one arm, and it is also to promote the principle of checks and balances. This week on You.Gov, we'll be focusing on the executive. The executive is one important arm of government. I am Itohan Olomo-Agbodo, and I'll let you know more after this time out.
Lovo Plus app is bigger and better. Watch all our shows with just a click.
Let him have the right to decide what happens with your body.
Watch inspiring, informative, and entertaining programs. You can comment, like, and share. Watch our live TV and web TV on your mobile devices. Watch the big stories in real time or when you have the time. Experience Lovo Plus app right now. Download Lovo Plus app on Android, iOS, and BlackBerry. Go to Google Play Store, Apple App Store, or Windows Phone Store. Welcome to the bigger picture. Lovo Plus, beyond television. With every story comes an inside story, shaping thoughts, opinions, and driving the conversation. Nations, governments, economies, and even the environment. The causes, consequences, or benefits. The analysis makes it clear. We take a close look at every possible angle. No matter the story, we take you inside the news.
Inside the News, showing on the station.
The talk never stops, whether politics, leadership, or economies in Africa. The issues, the facts, and all the sides. Your views matter. Let's discuss.
Join us on the agenda, showing only on Lovo Plus.
You're welcome back. This is You.Gov, and this week we are looking at the executive. The executive is in charge of law enforcement, in charge of security, and various administration of government. And it's basically the executive that you relate with on a daily basis. On You.Gov this week, we have a lot of interesting respondents who will be telling us more about the executive. Don't go away.
The executive arm of government, as the name implies, is the arm of government that has the responsibility to execute government policies, to execute government actions, to execute government intentions, to implement the decisions of the government. It could be at the local government level, it could be at the state level, it could be at the national level. It is part of the three arms, the tripartite arms, the tripod, if you like, arms of government that includes the legislature and the judiciary. What the executive does in simple terms is simply to administer, to govern the polity in whatever sphere it finds itself, either in terms of local government or in terms of state or in terms of federal. As a matter of fact, sometimes the executive has some kind of what you call legislative powers, and these legislative powers, they are more or less found in terms of rules and regulations within the executive arm itself. That does not mean that they act as a legislative arm. That does not mean that they take over the powers of legislatures. What they do is what you may call delegated legislation. In other words, the legislators have the power to make laws, but the executive, within their ambit of authority where they are executing their laws, they have some form of delegated legislation to make rules to help them execute some of their policies. That is where you see where government comes out to say, executive order, I hereby order, I hereby state, I hereby do this. That is part of the forms of incursion of the executive into making laws or regulations. In Nigeria now, let's use Nigeria as an example. We have the executive at the national level led by President Muhammadu Buhari and assisted, deputized by Professor Yemi Osibanjo. At the state levels, you have the governors, deputized by deputy governors. At the local government, you have the local government chairman, deputized perhaps by the deputy vice chairman of the local government. What you see Muhammadu Buhari do today is he carries out the administration of the entire country. They are on the field. It is not the business of the legislature to get into the field and ensure that the state or the polity is administered. It is the executive. What the legislator does is to make laws. The executive may wish that there are certain laws that it wants to implement in this polity. It takes the proposals to the legislature, and the legislature enacts those laws, make them to become laws, and hand them over to the executive to implement. That, in a nutshell, is the responsibility of the executive in governance.
The executive arm of the government is provided for in the Constitution, and the function of the executive arm of government is to ensure that the country as a whole, moves forward. Basically, that is the function of the government, to ensure that the rule of law is in place, to ensure that security is in place, to ensure that the objective principles and social policies containing this Constitution are realized, they are achieved, they are attained. That is basically the function of the executive arm of the government, and this is codified in the Constitution. So I would not say that the executive arm of the government is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's doing it rightly. It's just that I think for now, as a nation, we have challenges which go back to the history of this nation, and we have to address those issues to be able to come up with true federalism in this country. In terms of security, maintenance of security and protecting the nation, I think the executive has a very difficult responsibility, given the fact that we have had social dislocation in this nation, economic dislocation, as a result of bad economic policies of previous governments. We have restive youths that are agitating for control of their resources. You see what is happening in the northern part of Nigeria. They face Boko Haram. These days we have the Niger Delta Avengers. Now, it has put our executive arm of government in a very difficult position in terms of maintaining security. But what I would want to encourage the executive to do is to ensure that lawlessness is not brought into it. In the process of checkmating this level of insurgency, they operate within the rule of law. They don't bring in lawlessness like what we hear in Delta State, that innocent people are being killed, they are being arrested. I think that we should not allow that to happen in this country.
The executive is one of three arms of government in the federal system that is basically saddled with the responsibility of carrying out or executing the policies of government. By the theory of separation of powers, you have the executive, you have the legislature, and you have the judiciary. While the legislature makes laws, the judiciary interprets the laws and takes decisions on the position of the law between parties. The executive is that arm of government responsible for, as I said, implementation of the policies of government. It consists of the president, the vice president, the governor, the chairman, the vice chairman, the police, the army, and the customs, and all of these entire paraphernalia of governance, those that actually are seen day to day carrying out the activities of government. The local government officials you see out on the street, they are part of the executive arm of government. Those of the last mile, as Lagos State, for instance, the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, the CAI, Operation Kick Against Indiscipline, OP MESA, all of this. So, see, the executive is that arm of government that sees to the day-to-day implementation, overseeing enforcement of the laws even where a law is made and it is infringed, it is the executive that is responsible for apprehending the defaulters of the law and taking them before the judiciary for decisions or pronouncements to be made against the offenders. Even after the court pronounces a sentence, it is the executive that carries out that sentence. It is the executive that ensures or sees to the carrying out or execution of that decision or sentence of the court. The prisons also, like as I said, are part of the executive. So you see, it's about the widest arm of government of a truth. Because in terms of what constitutes the executive, it is indeed the widest arm, the largest arm of government, but it's just one of three arms of government. So that's essentially what I had mentioned: the vice president and the ministers, and in the case of the state government, the commissioners, the permanent secretaries, and all of these officials, even down to the local, the last tier of government, the supervisory councillors, they stand in the place of commissioners, and the people you see on the street, who are in charge of collecting money for haulage, in various local governments. They are all part of the executive. So the executive is indeed that arm of government that sees to the implementation of policies, to the enforcement of laws, and to the carrying of sentences, made by the judicial arm of government. That's essentially what the executive arm of government is.
That was Barrister Ikechukwu Ikeji and Barrister Godwin Omoaka telling us about the functions of the executive. This is still You.Gov, and we have more interesting respondents for you. Stay tuned.
The executive arm of government, which is as the president, as the head of the executive, basically the function of the executive is to enforce the laws that are made by the legislative. And of course, the executive, that's where we also have the police, who ensures that the laws and orders are followed as laid down and by the legislative. Majorly, as I said earlier on, is headed by the president of the country, who is the executive head, who directs affairs and the law enforcement agencies that we have. Well, at the state level, the executive arm of government is directed by the governor of the state, who also is in charge and also is the one that controls appoints the commissioners of police and all that, who ensures that laws and orders are maintained in the state. As I said earlier on, that basically the functions of the executive is to maintain laws and order, to ensure that citizens abide by the laws, regulations that are made by the executive. The executive head is the governor, and the governor is in charge of appointment of commissioners of police for the states. And the police functions basically is to ensure that laws and orders are being obeyed.
They get into their positions by elections. They have elections, and some of them are appointed. You have people who are appointed as executives. You have but basically, it's a common knowledge in Nigeria that most of the people who have in the executive arm are elected. You have the president, you have the governors, you have the and other positions like that. Basically, when you have laws that have been made, they are basically for administration. They have the administrative powers. Basically it's for administration. They execute policies of government. They execute laws. They administer basically, and for the purposes of administration of laws and execution of laws, basically.
Well, this is still You.Gov. We've had interesting responses from the beginning of the show about what the concept of the executive arm of government is. Now we are heading to the streets to get our street teachers to tell us about the executive. Stay tuned. Every week on You.Gov, we bring you opinions of experts in various fields of government. We also try to balance it out by bringing you opinions of people on the streets.
Elements of the coat of arms of Nigeria, peace and unity, all this love, peace and unity.
What are the colors of our flag?
It's red and white now.
The national anthem. I can try now, but it's been long.
Just try.
National anthem. I rise to compatriots. Are we?
Yes.
Nigeria's color be gather our leaders' rights. I don't forget to.
Can you sing the national anthem?
No, I can't sing that.
What about the pledge?
I can't do that now.
So can you sing the national anthem?
That's serious.
I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be useful and honest. Oh, I've forgotten.
And that is what we call the street teacher. Stay tuned.
The executive is the arm of government that executes the law of the land. They carry out the functions of government. They execute the laws that have been made by the legislature, the other arm of government. The executive are represented by the president and the ministers, the governors, and their commissioners, the local government chairmen, and the commissioners, the ministers, the deputy governor, the vice president.
An executive arm of government is an organ or the arm of government responsible for policy formulation and implementation in a particular state. Well, at the federal level, you have the president. At the state level, you have the governor. At the local government level, you have the chairman. They are expected at all times to present the budget to the National Assembly. They are also expected at every point in time to ensure that the policies or the laws that are made by the National Assembly or the legislative arm of government is implemented in order to have and promote good governance in a particular state.
Interesting responses out there on our street teacher segment. We also have some people singing the national anthem, saying the pledge, and talking about the coat of arms. Stay tuned.
Elements of the coat of arms of Nigeria, peace and unity, all this love, peace and unity, all those things.
What about our flag? What are the colors?
Green, white, green now. That one.
What do they represent?
Yeah, green, peace and agriculture, all those things. I don't really know.
I don't know what you mean by coat of arms.
Okay, what about the flag?
Okay,
what are the colors of our flag?
It's red and white now. I mean green, white,
Can
green.
you say that? So just say the colors of our flag.
The colors are green, white, green.
Okay.
Nigerian flag now.
Okay, so what do they represent? Which colors?
I know the green is supposed to represent maybe agriculture, but I have forgotten what the white stands for.
What are the colors of our flag?
Green, white, green, sure.
All right. Coat of arms, you know the elements of the coat of arms?
Ah, forgotten.
All right.
Green, white, green remain the Nigerian color. Well, the white represents the peace, the green represents the agriculture, the fertile land of the country. Well, the coat of arms symbolizes the what is it called? The executive authority, the symbol of executive. And it is expected at every point in time that it should be presented whenever the head of the executive at every point in time has a function to perform.
I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest. And so help me God.
I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend our unity and uphold our honor and glory. So help me God.
Wow, wow, wow. We had some people actually saying the national pledge correctly and some people not getting it. And about the coat of arms, a lot of people actually forgot about the coat of arms. This is still You.Gov. We have some more tidbits for you.
With every story comes an inside story, shaping thoughts, opinions, and driving the conversation. Nations, governments, economies, and even the environment. The causes, consequences, or benefits, the analysis makes it clear. We take a close look at every possible angle. No matter the story, we take you inside the news.
Inside the News, showing on the station.
The talk never stops with the politics, leadership, or economies in Africa. The issues, the facts, and all the sides. Your views matter. Let's discuss.
Join us on the agenda, showing only on Love World Plus.
It's been nice having you viewing us on You.Gov. We want to hear from you. We'd like you to send your comments, your observations to our page on KingsChat Super User. Just go hashtag You.Gov and send your comments there. We talked about the executive this week and we had interesting respondents, including our street teachers, and we had trivias for you. So we'd like you to send your comments. I am Itohan Olomo Agbodo, and from me, it's bye for now.